Okay. Okay, hello. Today I want to talk about T and about CakePHP. About 3 years ago, I was a CakePHP developer. I loved CakePHP for the same reasons you probably liked it too. It was really easy to build websites. It was fast, we had a clean structure, and we didn't have to do a lot of configurations to starting out. So I had a new client, and he wanted to have an event management application. I thought, like, that's easy. I can start with CakeBake, and from there go on and optimize the interface. So CakeBake looks like this and like this. But when I talked to my customer, he actually had something in mind which should look like this. So he wanted to have a desktop-like application. He wanted to be able to change multiple records at a time, change a few things, and then they click save, and everything is saved to the server. He wanted to see different information at the same time. And it should be more like a desktop application. So I looked into a lot of frameworks, what they provide, and I found a Sencha Touch, a Sencha ExtJS framework, which is one of the T flavors. It's a really sophisticated framework. It provides you widgets out of the box. It has, like CakePHP, a clean MVC structure. And you don't have to deal with messy DOM things. You have really nice applications. And what customers like is that you don't have to spend 100 hours styling them. They are already pre-styled, they look nice, they work nice, everything out of the box. So there was one small paradigm shift. I'm not now sending views to the browser via HTML anymore. I'm sending data. And so the CRUD, for example, gets some data of the users who are created, and then I can create new users. And we thought that's pretty easy. We just make a REST API and everything is good. But over the development time, we figured out it's not that easy, because the Cake data structures are different from XJS data structures. So we had to transform data to send it out. Then we figured out, oh, we have 2,000 records in the table. We can't put that all on the client, so we have to do some pagination. Then we need remote filtering to be able to sort that. Then we need searching, filtering, all that. And you get a huge amount of stuff you have to deal with and think about. And that was just the read. Now we have creates, we have updates, we have deletes. And we get all these things which you don't think at first, but which are pretty hard to solve. Then you may want to upload files. You can't do that with XHR, and so on and so on. So after the project, we decided we want to build Bancha, which solves this. We try to make application development easy, where you write Sencha code and you write CakePHP code, but you don't have to worry about all this mess in the middle. So we are built on the CakePHP framework, and we are built on Sencha framework. And when we looked more into Sencha, we found they have another really cool framework, which is called Sencha Touch, which is a platform-independent framework for creating mobile applications. So if you want to create mobile applications, which you can deploy as web app or as native app, Sencha Touch is a really good framework for that. So back to Bancha. Our first aim was that we want to handle all the communication between the client and the server. So the first thing we thought about, we want to have RPC calls. So in the browser, we want to trigger some action, which is executed in the server, and then we get the result back. We implemented it in Bancha that you just add a Bancha remotable annotation to any controller method, and then you can use this in the browser. So in the browser, you just get the stub, and you call a method on it, and it will send the data to the server, get the result back. But we found there are still a lot of things which are not dry. We still had to do a lot of code which looked pretty much the same, just in different styles. And so when we look at the CakePHP application, we have an MVC framework in CakePHP. And we also have an MVC framework in Sencha Touch and ExtJS. And most of the time, these two models look exactly the same from their schemas. And so what Bancha allows you is to expose a CakePHP model. And this is exposed exactly the same way in Sencha Touch and ExtJS. It gets all the associations you define in CakePHP. You get all the validation rules, the type information. Everything is pre-configured. You can then fine-tune that by defining which field should not be exposed and all these things. But you can have a really good start. I want to show you a little code, of course, but I don't want to go too much into JavaScript code. So what I'm starting with is an example of an XJS application. Sencha provides the IDE, which is called Sencha Architect. You can use it. You can simply not use it and write default code too. But it's really easy for developers to start with. So an Sencha Architect looks like this. So you can see here on the left, you have all the possible widgets and components. In the middle, we have a preview. And on the right, we have our application structure, where you can see we have MVC, like the controller, views, and models. And there's one more class, which is called stores. And that is basically a data view. So a database view. So when you have, for example, a CRUD element, you don't show one element. You show 10 users, for example. And so you have a collection of these users. And this is a store, essentially. A store keeps a collection of records. So this is the application as you get it from Sencha. It's an example application. And the data is retrieved from a simple JSON file here right now. So right now, there's no server involved. It's just a simple JSON file delivering the data. And we want to change that. So let me switch back. So we started the demo project. I already set up CakePHP, or downloaded CakePHP. I set up a vhost to point to Bancha demo. Then we get this little page. Everybody knows it. We make a database configuration. On Mac, we always have to define the Unix socket. And so what I now did is, in Sencha Architect, we have two models defined here. It's a little small. It says a book model and a review model. The book model is the stuff which is displayed here, and here down we have the reviews. And so, no, wait. In the code, it's better to see. So the book model looks like that. It has an ID, it has a name, it has an author, a detail, a price, and an image. And I'm using exactly the same to define my CakePHP database. So I take the same view, I take the same book, and I put some sample data in. Then I download Bancha, put in a plugins folder. There's one file, which is called Bancha Dispatcher, which you have to move to web root. And I also download ExtJS and download the sample project, which you'll see already saw. Activate Bancha and use the Bancha paginator. Okay, so that's set up. So now we have two database models. We have two tables in the database, but we have no models, no controllers, nothing. We keep it pretty simple and use the Cake console. And we bake, for presentation, it's easier to just bake all. So now we're using bake to bake the book and the review. Okay. And now there's one manual step, which is there by purpose. In the model, you have to add, for the models you want to expose, the Bancha remote behavior. The reason why it's not done automatically is you should think, do you really want to expose that model schema to other people? Is that a safe choice? Do you make fields or not? And right now, I think it's really safe, so I add the behavior. course, just typos. Jesus. Auto looks good. Add it to both. And now we have to set up our ExtJS application. There is only one thing you have to do. You add a new JS resource, which is /Bancha/JS script tag initializer JS. Great. So that's one JavaScript file delivered by us. And now to set up, to use Bancha, you only have to set on the model that it should use Bancha. So Bancha true on the model, on the other model also true, and voila. Currently the store is defined here to use a proxy where it loads the JSON file. We don't want that. We want to use the default proxy, which is created by Bancha, so just delete everything. And when we now go in, oh yeah, of course, it will not work. Now we have to publish the project. So we want to publish it to the web root. Okay, and we get that example application. You see there's one small difference. It's not learning with ExtJS, but our learning with checks, which is just to see that it's really the database going on here. And you also see that right now the reviews are not loaded. The reason for that is that it's not configured to automatically load reviews. I want to do that automatically. Do that here. No, crap. Okay, so we get the review store and we load it, but before that, let me open the console here. XHR. Okay, great. So what's now going on behind the scenes is that Bancha sends a request to the server. It's in a JSON format where it asks the server to send all the reviews, and then the server answers with the reviews. You don't have to care about that at all. That's all done. The transformations, how the data structures change, is all done by CakePHP. You can also do some, you can also do filtering and pagination and all that in the front end. So you can just add in the store. So here right now on the left we have 4 books, you can see. And we can simply add here that to the book store that we want to have a page size of 2. And then publish. Now it's sending to the server, the store, that it only wants to load 2 books, which you can see here. So in the request, it's defined that it should send only 2 books. That's great. We can then load a second page. Book. Load page. No. Great. Yeah, okay, I'm not sure right now which. Anyway, so you can then just simply say load page 2. I'm not sure what's the exact signature, and then it loads the second page. All right. So this is pretty nice if you're working with Sencha Architect, but if you're hand coding, ExtJS doesn't really follow the idea like CakePHP to rapidly develop. So if you create a grid, you have to do a whole lot of configurations to get a default grid running. And so we have a small scaffolding library where you don't have to do that, where it's automatically fetched from the model. So you say, I want to create a new grid, and I give it some random title, I define where it should be, and I say it should be rendering the user model. And then you get something like this. You can change multiple records, you can do creates, you can reset, you have validation rules, everything running. And when you click the save, everything is saved to the server. So Bancha provides a lot of tools. One of the tools is a developer remote API. The idea is in bigger groups, you maybe have 2 guys working on your CakePHP application, 2 guys working on your front end. And the front-end guys don't always enjoy reading PHP code. So every time you annotate a controller method by being exposed, every time you define a model as being exposed, it's automatically added here to the remote API. You can read the PHP docs are rendered here. The type information is rendered here, and you can see like all the default things which are supported when you expose anything. So like here we have a hello method which creates something and gets 2 persons, and we have some CRUD functionality out of the box, and you can upload files and everything. All right, we have some translation management tools, so you can in the browser translate JavaScript strings and use the same way you would do it in the backend, so you can use the pod files the way CakePHP uses it, and you can create pod files as well. And we have some logging features, so if you're in development version, like if Cake debug level is 2, the front end will show all the error messages and the debug messages and everything. If you're in production mode, it will automatically switch and send all the JavaScript errors to a special place on the server. So you have a JavaScript error log file on the server, which collects all the JavaScript errors. But we have heard a lot about permissions yesterday, especially about APIs. So they always differentiated between an API, which has specific permission for users, and a website. Our take on that is that there should not be any difference. If a user is able to create a new article on the website, he should be able to create a new article using the API. If a user is not allowed to, he should not be allowed to. So what we're doing is we're using the default controller methods, and therefore you're applying all your authentication logic in the default way, and it works across all your applications. You're developing a website, you're developing a mobile app, you're developing a desktop app. The authentication and authorization thing is always done the same. It uses the same logic. And a big thing here is performance. We did a lot of improvements on performance. So the first, we tried to make the footprint really small of each of the requests. So for example, if you're adding a record, it's not going to send the whole record to the server. It just looks which fields changed, and it will only send those fields to the server. And a lot of these small improvements. Also, we are patching requests together. That means when you start up your application and you have one panel asking for all the users, one panel asking for all the articles, one panel asking for reviews, you'd have 3 different XHR requests. And that can be really a problem if you're having big application and you have 10 resources at the same time. The browser doesn't allow you to load 10 XHR requests at the same time. So you're getting the first to the server, the application waits, you're getting the first results back, the application sends the other ones, it waits, gets the results back. We are patching that all in one request to the server with a payload of multiple requests and get one big result back. And then there's another way of performance, which means how fast is the application loaded in the browser. We are supporting Sencha command, which allows you, so in development, you have maybe 20 JavaScript files running your application. During a build process with Sencha command, all these get minified and put into one big file. And they provide a few really cool things. At first, you get app cache out of the box. When you build the application with Sencha command, it's using the app cache. So the first time you load the application, everything is loaded in the browser. And next time you open the application, all the JavaScript is already there. So what if you're deploying a new version. It doesn't download the whole JavaScript file again, which maybe is pretty big, but it creates delta scripts. So the next time you open your application, it will say like, hey, I'm version 1.0, is there a newer version? And we'll only get the changes which were done to the applications. And of course, you can natively package your application. So the goal with Bancha is that you create applications faster, not websites, real applications, which can be on your phone, which can be management applications, big, complex things. We are working a lot for compatibility. So we're supporting different ExtJS versions, different CakePHP versions. There's a lot going on, making sure that it consistently works if you're upgrading from one version to the next version, that everything stays the same, even if there are introduced new bugs and stuff. We're working on interoperability in a way that the same code works for ExtJS and Sencha Touch. That sounds not so hard because the data model is pretty much the same, but the data model is the same in like 98%. And to figure out the 2% where it differs can be really a pain in the ass. And you don't have to care about that. We did that. We're developing that for a good 2 years now, and there's a lot of work going into all of that. So in the end, we hope that you have less errors. We have done a lot of thinking about all these things, and for you, it should work out of the box. You shouldn't have to think so much about what you want to send. You just should think about what should your application do, and it works. And so we hope that it's more convenient to create applications. So with Bancha, you can have one CakePHP application, and it has multiple front ends. So you still can have your normal website where you have coded your views in CakePHP. And beside that, you can have some mobile apps which run on iPhone, iPad, Android, Windows, BlackBerry. And you can also create ExtJS desktop applications which run in all modern and also older browsers. So it still supports IE6 if your custom is like not so fun. You don't have to care about it, it works. And you can also natively deploy to desktop applications. So you can package your ExtJS application and create a native application. That is actually the same the way Sencha Architect is built. So when you see Sencha Architect, all that is built with ExtJS and natively packaged. So what we're working right now is we want to be able to send nested data if you want to. Sometimes it's a performance improvement if you're sending nested data, like a book and all the reviews in it. Sometimes you only want to send all the books but no reviews. We want to give you the choice to do both versions. We're heavily working on providing more examples and more documentation. We want to provide a guide of how you build applications which run offline. It already works, but there's no guide, so we're working on that. And one big thing is, a month ago, Sencha announced that they'll do Sencha Architect 3, which gives us finally the opportunity to put stuff in the architect. And so what we're aiming to do is that when you're in Sencha Architect 3, you have a list of possible CakePHP models which you can use. Then you drag it in, and they automatically use the current data from the database and show you how it would look in the browser. It loads the data, and all the fields and everything is just in the application. All right, so that's Bancha. On that link, you can find our presentation, and you can find the code I've done in the presentation. Feel free to contact me. And any questions? Yes?
The scaffolding feature that you were showing, is that part of Bancha, or is that just something that you had for the...
Oh, it's part of Bancha, so I can... So I have more documentation on the website on it. It's part of Bancha, so you can here in the example, I'm simply adding some other styles, like how big the grid should be and how tall it should be. And you get these kind of things. Where I can actually show you here how the patching works. So let me get to XHR. So here, you can see when the application starts up, we have multiple requests. Of course, in a real application, you should only ask for all the users once. But here, we want to have independent widgets, so we're asking 3 times. But we're loading all the users, we're loading all the articles in one request. And in the response, we get all of them also back. And on the server, the CakePHP starts only once, and then does all the controller actions, and then collects the results and answers with one result. And if we change something here, it will only send the fields which are changed to the server. But that is part of the Bancha package. So if you download Bancha, you can use it. Yes?
Are you guys relying on any third-party libraries for that XHR bundling, or did you write something?
There's a standard from Sencha, which is called XDirect, and we're following that standard. The problem is that the standard is almost not documented, so we have had to work a lot of that out ourselves, and it is also buggy. And on our website, in the technical documentation, we have actually the real standard, including all the stuff which is missed by Sencha. So we're following the Sencha standard they created.
What was the name of that standard?
Sorry?
You mentioned the name of that?
It's called XDirect, X.direct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah?
That's he was asking about the native bundling of the extension.js application.
No. The way these records are patched and the way the records are structured, so that you have different types. You can also have catch exceptions and stuff. And the way the requests and responses look are defined in XDirect standards.
Okay, so then that's
Yeah.
all right. So then, since he didn't ask that, I was curious to know what native packaging software or methods you've come across, if any, using extension.js.
XJS is not. So Sencha Touch, you mean probably going for the mobile packaging or desktop packaging. Okay, so for desktop packaging, XJS provides their own library, which you can use if you're using, which is fully compatible. So if you're writing XJS code, you can simply download their desktop packager and package it. If you're going for mobile, you can use Sencha command, and it's able to use either PhoneGap or Cordova to package it as a native app. Yes?
Do we have to buy something on Sencha to fully use?
If you're using XJS, there's a license. They are dual licensed. If you're using Sencha Touch, it's free. Okay, thank you.